Alrighty, so I've got some good news finally. It's not all bleak and doom and gloom, which is kind of nice. I've got to stoke up my fire again here. I do. You got to constantly keep this thing going. It doesn't take much though. It's got a good hot bed of coals now, so it doesn't take much to get it to start again when it goes down. Yeah. I got the screen turned around, so I'm not sure what you're seeing, but I heard from my friend who owns the garage, her and her husband own it, where my truck is right now. And it turns out that what's happened is, well, it's a bunch of stuff, it's a couple of things that have happened, and actually it's kind of good in a way that it worked out like it did. It did piss out all its fluid, that did happen. They've discovered that it isn't just a bad line. There's a hose. There's a valve in there and it was the valve that actually caused it to lose all its fluid, like it did. And so I'm waiting to hear back from her about the line. If the line, what's going to happen about that? But the valve now that the valve that failed is the reason that it lost all its fluid at once, apparently. At least that's what I gather from the message she sent me. I'm not entirely certain. I may not be understanding it completely. So, I mean, I'm only going to explain it as best I can based on what I understand with the knowledge that, with the qualification that I don't necessarily understand the message, but anyway, what's happened is the cotter pins that hold the linkages had rusted out and let go, and so that's why the truck wouldn't go into gear. But it had leaked all its fluid, and that, from what I can gather from the message I received, is due to a valve that decided to let go. And so now they're trying to figure out what they're going to do about that. They don't really feel inclined to get another valve for it because they're concerned about it. They're concerned about it. They're concerned about it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe they're concerned that they won't be able to get a good one or something. I don't know, but they say there's a fix. There's some sort of a fix that can be done without replacing the valve, and so they're thinking of going that route, which is fine with me as long as it's fixed, and I don't really care, as long as it's functional. That's all that matters, really. So it's good to know the transmission at least isn't kaput, but in a way it's good that the linkages let go at the same time as that valve decided to fail, because I would have kept driving it. I would have driven it back here, and I wouldn't have had a transmission, I'm sure, by the time I got back here. As it stands, I only drove it a short distance to, and it's a good thing, to the store, to the other store, which is like, literally, you can see Walmart from the store from the parking lot where it failed. You can see the Walmart store. But if I hadn't decided to stop there, or if the linkages hadn't failed, say I stopped there and the linkages hadn't failed, I would have got into it and driven it back here, and by the time I got back here, the transmission would have been cooked with no fluid in it. So what happened actually was kind of a miracle, I think, but the linkages let go, so I couldn't get it into gear at the same time as the valve failed and pissed all my transmission fluid out onto the ground. So I don't know. I do believe that lower hose is still, that lower line is still leaking. From what I can gather, it is. I didn't really understand her message, so I'm not really sure what she was talking about exactly. So I'm waiting for word from her anyway. Now I sent her a message back asking some questions and asking about what's, just saying, well, so what's happening, whatever, you know. But I'm just waiting to hear back at this point, is all. Anyway, as it stands, right now, it's actually kind of a good thing that it happened the way it did, because you can't see because yeah, there we go. See all the mud? Terrible, muddy. Yeah. Anyway, at this point, I don't know. We'll have to see. That's all. I just don't know. But it's not as bad as I thought it was. Now, the situation with the social worker and all that, I don't know what's going on there, really. It's been a kind of a tense relationship that we've had, I think. It hasn't really been, I don't know, I don't think either one of us is too keen on dealing with the other, really, at this point. But, again, it is what it is. Neither one of us has a choice. I'm not kidding, though, when I say I'm just waiting for that message to come that says if I want to improve my own situation and help my country out, that I should avail myself of the medical assistance in dying program, which our government has graciously and generously offered. You know, I'm just waiting for that to come. That'll be something. I won't be surprised if I get a message like that at some point. I don't have a doctor. If I did, I'd probably already have been pressured by him to do it. You know, they're trying to get rid of all the people they regard as useless eaters, basically. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Anyway, compassionate government we have here, you know. Probably as compassionate as any, though. I guess they're all run by Luciferian psychopaths. So, anyway. Bottom line is, I'm sure the social worker is under pressure from people above her, and that'll be part of it. I can hear my kettle over there wanting to boil. But I'm sure that, our government, you know, our provincial government that she works for is putting them all under a certain amount of pressure to get guys like me off of these pensions and whatnot. I guess they don't call it a pension. She scolded me for that in the last message there, for referring to it as a pension, because it's not a pension, it's social assistance. She said it's not a pension. So I guess a pension is kind of an entitlement, whereas social assistance is, you know, you're kind of begging for money from the taxpayer, basically, with social assistance. So she was putting me in my place anyway, letting me know that it's not a pension, as I referred to it as, but it's in fact social assistance, and therefore I should not be referring to it as a pension. So anyway, there you have it. Yeah, we're having quite a time anyway. I think there's quite a few of us in the country that have been kind of slated to have something done about us. You know, I believe I'm one of them, but I don't think I'm the only one. Anybody who presents any kind of a challenge or poses any kind of an opposition should expect a result, a similar result, I guess you could say, you know. But anyway, there is some good news about the transmission. It's not as bad as it could have been. Like I say, those linkages failing were actually a blessing, because if they hadn't have failed, then I would have continued to drive it, because as far as I knew, there was fluid in it. I just topped it up at Walmart, so it needed to be topped up at Walmart, but it had been. And so far, as long as I top it up, I've been able to drive it, you know. Anyway, that's where we're at. That's what's going on. It is going to mean I'm going to have to spend some money on the truck again. But at the same time, The towing alone's probably going to be a couple $100. The towing that I'll have to pay for. But still, it could be far worse. And I'm lucky I've got that tax money coming in. It looks like I'm going to have to spend a bit of that on this situation. I wasn't willing to spend pretty much all of it on the situation, which I would have had to do to put a transmission in the truck. But I'm willing to spend a few $100s to keep the truck. You know, I'm in deep enough now, I might as well keep going if it's just a few $100s at a time. If it had been a $5,000 repair, which it would have been with a transmission replacement, I wouldn't have done that though. I'm just stoking up my stove here. Anyway, that's where we're at. That's what's going on. I am glad to be able to give a little bit of good news. It could be, like I say, it could be far worse. It's not a great situation. I mean, I'm certainly not jumping for joy at the prospect of having to spend hundreds more dollars, you know. But even so, it was looking like I might lose the truck entirely. So I'm glad that that's not the case anyway. I'm finding all sorts of stuff that's been buried in the snow. I am. But yeah, that's where we're at. That's what we're doing here at Camp Crazy. I don't know what else to tell you. My water's boiling, so I'll take it inside and I'll dump it in the sink and I can do my dishes. All right, bye for now.